industries that weigh more heavily on the environment, among them air transport and plastic. But as the world faces a global health crisis, their image is transforming. Air travel now linked to the spread of the disease, plastic seen as a buffer from the virus. Winners or losers, how are these industries coping with the COVID-19 pandemic? And is there anything the environment might gain? Welcome to this week's episode of Down to Earth. Today, there are scenes in airports not seen since the dawn of the jet age. Global demand for air travel down 80%, an industry in freefall. 290 billion euros in lost revenue, airline survival now dependent on federal loans and bailouts.
The main consequence, if we have no state help, would be the bankruptcy of a great number of airlines. If we have no state help, in June, probably half of the airlines will go bankrupt.
But should any rescue plan come with conditions such as strict targets on carbon emissions? Joining me now is Magdalena Heuweiser from the campaign Save People, Not Planes, supported by 300 organisations around the world. Many thanks for being with us. Now, the International Air Transport Association says that if the current flight restrictions continue for another 3 months, 25 million jobs are at risk. What you're saying is that governments should help, but that help must be conditional.
That's right. Airlines have made enormous profits in the last decades off the backs of low-paid workers and the climate. The billionaire Richard Branson is asking the UK government to give his Virgin Atlantic airline a £500 million bailout and wants another £700 million from the Australian government. And he's living on a private island. He has paid no personal income tax for years. So we cannot let the aviation industry get away with privatizing profit while the public pays for its losses.
For your group, what are the red lines in terms of the environment and the climate? What must airlines do?
Airlines must agree to finally pay their fair share of taxes. Right now, airlines don't pay fuel tax and there's no VAT on plane tickets. We also demand to stop air miles programs which incentivize frequent flying. And we strongly recommend to implement a frequent flyer levy. The more often one flies, the more expensive it gets. This would be more than fair since a very wealthy minority is responsible for most air miles and emissions.
One industry that's been less impacted by the pandemic is the business of plastic. In just a few months, a material normally treated as a pariah has since become synonymous with hygiene. Plastic lobbies, meanwhile, are taking advantage of contagion fears, pressuring governments to ease single-use bans. Peter O'Brien reports.
The battle against the virus has turned the tide in the war on plastic. Single-use bags were becoming a rare sight in supermarkets around the world. Now this trend has flipped on its head. Many shops and local authorities have suspended restrictions on plastic, worried that reusable items could spread COVID-19. The powerful European plastics lobby, EUPC, has asked the European Commission to lift existing bans on single-use plastics and put off a directive to limit their use.
Working in the plastics industry was no longer fun. It's evident today that consumers are turning again their hearts to this material. Plastics are needed. Plastics packaging in particular are extremely important in order to secure the full food chain, which could have been broken up during this crisis.
Environmental groups say these lobbies are taking advantage of public health fears.
This is a blatantly opportunistic pandemic response, and it's frankly frustrating that most of us are worried about how COVID-19 will impact our health, our families, and our paychecks, and the industry is really preying upon our fear in this time to push a pro-plastic agenda.
So far, research into whether using plastic is actually a safer option is limited. Some has shown that viruses can remain on plastic surfaces for a number of days.
If there's one area where single use is widely accepted, it's in the toilet. The toilet paper shortage has been one of the unexpected outcomes of the pandemic, but it's prompted alternatives, including washable, reusable toilet roll. One way to be sure that you're not caught with your pants down.
Across the globe, shelves have been stripped bare. Toilet paper being so bulky and cheap, stores rarely keep big inventories, while companies produce it just in time to sell. Factories are now running at full steam, and the industry says there should be plenty of toilet paper for everyone. But others are taking no chances. This British startup sells home kits of reusable cotton wipes, and they have seen demand surge since the start of the crisis.
At the minute, with the current, lack of loo roll, they're great because you just wash and reuse, so you don't have to worry about going to the shops to stock up.
For those who can't get over the yuck factor, rest assured, each box comes with essential oils to mask any bad odors. Perhaps an eco-friendly solution, but one that many will find hard to embrace.
Thanks for being with us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.